Hey everybody, Michael Snyder here, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is May 3rd, and today we're going to take a look at these potential systems rolling through the Pacific Northwest coming up here later this week, on into this weekend, and on into early next week. Looking at the infrared satellite imagery here, you can see this cold air that spilled out of the Gulf of Alaska, bringing this trough and this directing this atmospheric river into British Columbia currently. This is eventually going to slide all the way down the west coast of North America as a deep trough establishes itself over the Pacific Northwest and the west portions of the USA here. This atmospheric river is relatively weak, but it does extend all the way back across the Pacific Ocean, all the way into the western Pacific here. Now on the infrared satellite imagery, you can also see this low pressure system bringing some winter weather advisories for Montana and Idaho. This is eventually going to eject out over the plains tomorrow and bring a severe weather threat for Oklahoma and Texas again. Significant tornado is possible tomorrow, and then this will push off towards the southeast. And we'll take a brief look at that as well. And then we'll look at the extended. And I've got a couple experimental maps I want to show you guys at the end of the video, so stick with me. And make sure to click like and subscribe if you guys are liking this channel. Leave any comments or feedback below if you would. Now, taking a closer look here at the Pacific Northwest, you can see we're socked in on the west side of the Cascades, and you can see nice, glorious sunshine in some portions of eastern Oregon and Washington, although Spokane still is locked in some of the low clouds here, as well as northeast Oregon. And you can see that system moving off to the east here that's still bringing those winter weather advisories for Montana and Idaho. But we had a little bit of light precip across much of the region this morning as this system's been, it's been dragging some low-level onshore flow and keeping us moist. And you can see the high clouds from the next system already moving into the area here. So filtered sunshine at best probably is on tap for today and tomorrow, as we do have some weak ridging across the area, but the next frontal system will be rolling in on Thursday. Now you can see average annual precipitation Washington, very similar for Oregon too. You can see it highlights precipitation amounts in the Cascades, Olympic Mountains, and the lack of precipitation for eastern Washington and the Banana Belt here on the lee of the Olympic Mountains. Most of the systems approach from the southwest, so the downsloping and warming keeps this area relatively dry. Port Angeles Squim called the Banana Belt for a reason there, and you can see why with the annual precipitation being quite low. If you take a look at the purple and blues here, you can see the only rainforest in the lower 48 states of the USA is right here in Washington state. So just thought you might find that interesting. Rest of the country going on today, there is a severe weather threat, mainly across Ohio, all the way back towards Texas. In some areas, there's a fire danger. You can see those winter weather advisories, frost and freeze warnings for portions of Northern California as well. Now, looking at this, if you're a tornado chaser out there in Texas, maybe you want to drive all the way down to the Mexico border and try to catch a rogue tornado there south of Fort Stockton near Del Rio, Texas. But the better chasing is probably going to be tomorrow there. As you can see, 10% hatch, potential for a significant tornado in this area. I will not be out chasing this yet. I still have to work a few more days, and then I'll be free for well into June. So we'll see how that works out. But you can see the following day, this enhanced risk moves off and encompasses really all of Arkansas there. So severe weather season full effect across Tornado Alley here so far this year. Back to the Pacific Northwest here, you can see this is for Seattle. The green line is average temperatures. We're getting about, we're low 60s right here, but you can see it increase through the month. By the end of May, we average about 68 degrees here in SeaTac, which sounds like a really warm day after the spring we've been experiencing so far. But yesterday we only topped out at 54, which is well below average. And we're going to continue this trend for the next few days at least with this really cold trough that's going to impact the area and continue to bring systems through the area. And you can see our record highs are generally well up into the 80s and even a few 90s here in May. So if we do start to warm up, you can get pretty warm at this time of year, but we haven't seen anything close to that yet. And here go the normal highs here too. So 63, the normal high for today, 68 by the end of the month. Now looking at the NAM3KM here, just timing precipitation, it looks like that residual precip should be waning by this afternoon. As you can see, a little bit of precip hitting western British Columbia here as this starts to mark the next frontal system rolling in here late Wednesday night into Thursday morning. As this system mainly rolls into Oregon again, should bring some beneficial rains to eastern Washington and Oregon as well. And then we're going to have a stronger system impact us Friday night, which we'll take a look at also here in a moment. But here's that atmospheric river. You can see it extend into western British Columbia here, and this is eventually going to slide all the way down the west coast of North America as this trough becomes established over the Pacific Northwest into our near future here. Now looking at these systems coming up here, this is the latest run, the 06Z European. Here's Thursday's frontal system rolling through here, and you can see Friday's stronger system out here, but it's trended a little bit different over the last day or so. It does fill a bit off the coastline here. It still brings some breezy conditions, mainly Oregon coast, but it's backed off a little bit with the strength of this low, but it's still, we're plenty cold and plenty wet. Mountain snows, valley rains, all the way into eastern Washington, Oregon. So we're going to be well below average temperatures here coming up through the weekend. Now checking out yesterday afternoon's run, you can see Thursday's frontal system, then the stronger low kind of made a little bit more headway inland and cast a more powerful gradient across western portions of Oregon, Washington, and would be a little bit more windy if that solution hangs on. So we'll see what this says tomorrow as well. But for the most part, troughing is going to be the general forecast for this weekend. As you can see, this trough kind of open up and bring the mountain snow, keep us in a cold, showery pattern here all the way through the weekend and on into next week. As you can see, another reinforcing shot of cold air comes down with this system here, which would move through Wednesday night and Thursday if this is correct. So we'll keep our eyes on these systems as they come through individually here. Looking at things currently, this is 10,000 feet temperatures on the European. Here goes Thursday's frontal system moving through here. You can see the cold air clip the region. Then some much colder air moves in with that stronger system on Friday and really establishes across the western portion of the USA here. And then you'll see that reinforcing shot come down out of Alaska into next week, keeping us very cool. And maybe, when we get this kind of troughing set up over us, sometimes this ridge will build back in and start to give us some warmer weather. But that's still a ways off. I mean, this is 10 days out here now, so we'll take that one day at a time and not really start to hang our hat on any ridging in the extended at this point. But you can see Thursday's frontal system bringing some good winds to the Washington, Oregon coast, nothing extreme. And the much stronger system on Friday here would pack a more powerful punch for the Oregon coast at this point. Maybe some breezy conditions all the way up through the Puget Sound and some pretty windy conditions for Northern California, Northern Nevada, and Southern Oregon here through the night, Friday night into Saturday morning. So we'll see how this storm, still some model disagreement on where it's going to take shape exactly. So we'll watch this again tomorrow. Now this is general trough and ridge position at 18,000 feet for the European. You can see that transient ridge before the next system Thursday, and then the stronger system Friday, and then this reinforcing shot later in the weekend, and then another shot of cold air moves through next week. So you can see this trough just hanging around. It's going to keep us well below average, looks like through all the way through mid-May actually, but then you see the ridge building back in over that. Maybe we'll get a piece of that ridge here on in through the extended, but don't cross your fingers just yet. Let's see if the GFS agrees with the European. Short term, not bad. You can see the Thursday system, Friday system, and you can see how this was a little bit more disorganized on the GFS here too. But then that reinforcing shot, good agreement there later in the weekend. And let's see what it does in the extended. It does not bring down that reinforcing shot that the European had later on through next week. In fact, it builds a ridge over us. So the GFS and the Euro disagree on the weather going on in through next week. So we'll see which model wins here as we go on in through the next few days here, which model will cave to which. And well off into the extended, if you want to go way out here, this is just kind of fun fantasy talk here, but the GFS has another trough well off into mid-May. That would be about May 16th. Let's see what the Canadian says. You can see the ridging, good agreement. There's Thursday's system, and then Friday's stronger system rolling through here. That's a pretty potent looking storm there on the Canadian model as we get that reinforcing shot. And on to the extended, it kind of more agrees with the GFS here a bit. Yes, it brings the ridging closer on in through next week. So maybe we'll get some nice weather after all next week, depending on which model wins out. We'll continue to watch that the next few days. So here's the GFS, shows that trough and the cool conditions on in through about Monday. Then it warms us up with potential ridging on in through next week. So that would be kind of nice for warm weather lovers across the region here. And you can see that European draws a much bleaker picture. It keeps us below average all the way into mid-May, really. And this is still going to be probably just below average even on these warmer days out here. So the European, a much more bleak picture as far as troughing is concerned versus the GFS and the Canadian. So here's another cool graphic here. The Climate Prediction Center does these hazards outlook, 8 to 14 day hazards outlook. So check this out, risk of hazardous temperatures. They give us slight for May 10th to May 11th for chilly temperatures with that big trough digging out of the region. This probably more applies to higher terrain, but it's kind of an interesting graphic they do here. They do mark this as experimental. Risk of heavy precipitation. This is associated with some severe weather that's forecast to be there about this time frame. This is kind of out in fantasy land, but they're trying to give a heads up to people as far as general risks. Risk of high winds. Here we go. Across Tornado Alley here, kind of highlighting the severe weather chance during that time period. And of course, they also do this for snow too, which is sometimes interesting to watch how they try to forecast this 8 to 14 days out. Mostly much more handy, of course, during the winter periods. They'll highlight Cascades, for example, a lot of times during the winter. But yeah, so hopefully we get some sun breaks later on today. Maybe we'll get some sun breaks tomorrow, but the high clouds are already starting to move in a bit. And then eventually we'll get the rainy day on Thursday. And then maybe a little bit of a break on Friday before the next big storm rolls in during the day on Friday. And we continue to deal with these systems on in through early next week. Then we have model disagreement as we go on in through next week on whether we're going to remain in a trough or some ridging is going to get close by or just offshore. So hope you get out and enjoy any sunbreak that you might see the next couple of days. And, leave comments below. And hope you guys are enjoying the channel. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow. We'll check out the model discrepancy and see if we can figure some more things out.